4 o'clock in Los Angeles. It's 6 o'clock in Chicago, and it's 7 p.m. in Atlantic City, New Jersey. How are you, folks? I'm Mad Dog the Scipio, joined as I am each and every week. Jesus help me. By Amelia the Pitbull Chapman. How are you, Amelia?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing better today. We actually got an interview under.
Yay!
Those of you who were here last night or were thankful enough to stay around. First of all, we're very grateful you did, because that was a hell of a show. It was a really great show. We were supposed to have actor Eddie Deezen with us last night. As it turned out, Eddie had a serious array of technical issues to work through, but we were able to get a hold of his IP guy today, and Amelia the Pitbull Chapman and myself worked an interview with Eddie Deezen, and I think you'll enjoy it. You're going to see that interview tonight. We are also anticipating the return of Rick Saphire and his amazing book, The Real Jerry Lewis Story, Volume 1. It looks like, Amelia, it's going to be probably a 2 or 3 book set.
Yes.
Probably it's going to end up being a trilogy. At least 2. We know for sure at least 2. But if you, according to Rick, I don't know, he was talking about maybe pushing out 3 books.
Yeah, he hinted around that.
Yeah, well, if he's got the time to push out 3 books, then
yes,
man, I want to tell you, there might be worth waiting for it. So
absolutely.
Anyway, so what did you do for fun today?
Oh, just my son had a doctor's appointment, and of course that was a little bit of fun. And we went to another city that I was telling you about that has this great grocery store that we go to.
Look whose birthday's today. Look whose birthday's today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Rosie is 62. Happy birthday, Rosie. Hey, Leon, how you doing?
Birthday.
We have another famous birthday today, by the way. Rosie shares a birthday with actor Tom Hanks.
Yes, we found that out today.
I believe, and I think Tom, he's going to be mad if I get this wrong. I think Tom Hanks is 70 years old today. So I got to find. I want to cheat, folks. I got to ask Google.
Yeah, we're going to find out.
Tom Hanks. Google, how old is Tom Hanks? So let's see. I think, what did I say? 71?
70.
Oh, he's 68. 68. Tom Hanks is 68 today. I thought he was a lot older than me. He's not that much older than me.
No.
Eddie Deezen's only 2 years older than I am.
Yeah.
I just thought they were a lot older. I don't know why.
Yeah, and Eddie Deezen's brothers.
You know?
Yeah.
Hell of a show, man. It was a hell of a show last night. If you're a fan of Jerry Lewis and you like that kind of comedy, well, I'll tell you what. We had an interesting conversation last night, and an even more interesting conversation today with actor Eddie Deezen. I want to show everybody and just kind of sit back and enjoy this. You remember Eddie Deezen, of course. Is an actor. You saw him as Eugene in Grease 1 and 2. Polar Express, he played the know-it-all kid. He was in War Games. He played the computer nerd in War Games. Of course, Midnight Madness, Teenage Vamp, Mob Boss, and as he told us today, Surf 2. Even though there wasn't a Surf 1. I don't know, why do people do that? Why do they make movies like part 2 when there wasn't a part 1?
Right.
I don't understand that. It's just like, it boggles the mind.
Right. Or they make movies like 2, 3, and 4, and then part 3 should have been part 1 to begin with. I don't get it.
Well, wait a minute. I like what the Lion King did.
Yeah.
Part 1.5, 1.5.
Oh my goodness!
They did. They put part 1.5. They did. I'm like, you think I'm kidding?
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness.
I'm not
Why?
even shitting you. Mm-hmm.
Or these remakes that they do? Stop doing that.
Part, yeah, The Lion King, part 1.5. I just like, where did they come up with this shit? Well, listen, actor Eddie Deezen is a mainstay. You all know him. You all love him. He's a friend of Amelia and I.
Oh yes. For
Um,
life. Yes.
yeah, good guy. Good guy.
Yes.
Take a look at this, folks. Talking about his idol, Jerry Lewis. And you'll understand why in just a second. Watch this. And we're back with actor, television star, Eddie Deezen. Hi, Eddie. How are you,
Hi,
my
how are you,
friend?
Mad Dog?
Because Eddie is the little bratty kid in my favorite movie, Polar Express. I love that movie.
Thank you so much. And Mad Dog, today is Tom Hanks' birthday, if you don't know. I want to say happy
Oh.
birthday to my pal Tom Hanks.
Well,
I hope
yeah,
he's listening to your wonderful show.
amazing. My birthday's actually tomorrow,
Tomorrow.
kind
Is
of
it?
close.
Oh,
It
happy
is.
birthday, Mad Dog. I didn't know that. Well, I'll
Yeah,
send you a greeting on
65
Facebook for
tomorrow,
sure.
Eddie.
Okay, I'll send you a
65
greeting on
tomorrow, for
Facebook
sure.
tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Eddie and I are Facebook friends, and we became quick friends in real life. It's amazing, my friends out there, what turmoil and anarchy will create the bond between two men.
Mad Dog,
We
can I
have,
just interject for 1 second?
yes, sir.
What is the name of the lovely lady here? I didn't get to meet her.
Oh.
That's Amelia. She is a
Hello,
pit
Amelia.
bull.
Hi,
Amelia is a
Hello.
Amelia.
pit
It's
bull
so nice
chat.
to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you finally.
Amelia is my producer
Okay.
and sometimes co-host, and
Okay.
she's actually the co-host on our new show that premieres tomorrow night called Bullshit.
Okay.
That
And of course, I star in that, of course.
that's Bullshit with Rico and Stretch that airs at 7 p.m. tomorrow.
All right.
Tonight we're going to talk about Rick Saphire's amazing book called The Real Jerry Lewis Story, Volume 1, by the way, Eddie. This is just book 1.
Okay, and you promised me
There's
you're going to get me a copy, Mad Dog. I'm dying to read it.
oh,
I want all my
Yes.
friends to read it. I'm going to
promise
promote
you.
it on Facebook because I'm a Jerry Lewis nut, and I have so many friends who love Jerry. Jerry
Well,
was
I
a
want
huge
to
influence
talk
on my
about
life.
that. That's one of the reasons, Eddie, I wanted you on the show tonight,
Mhm.
is you've been compared throughout your entire career to Jerry.
Yes,
So I want to
that
talk about
it's kind of like getting a Class B minor league player comparing them to Babe Ruth, comparing me to Jerry Lewis. But I'm honored if I ever am.
well, let's talk about that, especially early on. You know, we talked about Rick and I spoke on our previous show last night. Of course, this is Tuesday night's program,
Right?
and we're talking about um, how Jerry Lewis lost the funny, quote
Yeah,
unquote, lost the funny.
I
And I
have my
think,
theory.
yeah, and I think what Rick and I agreed upon, I think universally,
Right?
is that as Jerry got older and matured, the
Right?
funny went away.
Yes.
So
He wasn't the wiry. He
what's your
wasn't the
thoughts
wiry.
on that?
He wasn't the wiry, skinny guy. So much of his comedy was he's this gang guy, which I was, and I still kind of.
Exactly.
But even I've put on weight. I'm 67 now. Remember when I was doing Grease and I Want to Hold Your Hand in 1941? I was 20 years old. I was 20, which is how old Jerry was when he met Dean Martin. So it's kind of a coincidence. And then you put on
Wow.
weight, you kind of lose. That was part of his shtick. It's kind of like the reverse. Imagine like Jackie Gleason or Curly Howard if they didn't have their belly. If they got skinny, it wouldn't be as funny. We know them as fat men. John Candy, John Belushi. If they were thin, it wouldn't have been the same. So we know this
No,
physical presence they have, and it detracted
you're
from.
absolutely right.
Let's say Charlie Chaplin was 6'1" and he wasn't the
Yeah.
little tramp. He wouldn't be as funny. It wouldn't be funny with a tall guy. So the body is conducive. It's part of the comedian's persona. And Jerry Lewis definitely. He was such a brilliant physical comedian, and he lost that. Now, my own theory too, Mad Dog, is he hurt his back. He had that back injury in 65. He started
Yeah.
taking drugs.
Sure did.
And I'm sure you know about me, in 2020, I had my heart surgery and they put me on all these drugs like Xanax and I did horrible things. I wasn't me. I wasn't in my right mind. I called a waitress a pig, which I would never do that to a lady in my life. And I was throwing plates at cops and they were chasing me around a restaurant. I was doing crazy stuff because when you're on these meds, it does something to your mind. Yeah. So it's horrible stuff.
So let's talk about. I want to get into the comparative aspect, but I also want to get into Jerry's influence on your particular style of acting
Yes.
and comedic acting, and they are two very different things.
Yes.
So
True.
let's talk about that, and I'll let you roll. And please ask Rick any question, anything you want. It's all
Rick, I
yours
have
tonight.
questions for you. I'll answer your question first, Mad Dog. Then, Rick, I have questions for you. And hi, Rick. How are you? Thank you so much for your book. Thank you for writing this. My style with Jerry Lewis, my voice has always been kind of weird like this. So I kind of took it up an octave, and I saw Jerry Lewis did it with his voice. We're both skinny. We're both Jewish. We both have a crew cut. I didn't have a great partner like Dean Martin, but I look like that. Now, if you look at my character, I based a lot of it on Harpo Marx too, but you can't see Harpo Marx in me. I don't have a blonde wig. I don't have a horn. I'm not a mute. So I don't look like Harpo Marx, but Harpo Marx was a big influence on me. You'll see my early stuff. Hi, da-da, me, da-da. And this is all the smile. Harpo Marx, but you don't see that.
I want to pull him just for a minute, Amelia.
Yes.
As we're watching this, and people should know that we recorded this. We had to pre-record Eddie today because God bless him. You know, he's a guy, and we had a big laugh about it today.
Yes.
He's a guy that's been compared to like the computer geek, the nerd.
Yes.
Folks, I'm going to tell you something. Eddie Deezen is the least geekiest, least nerdiest guy. And he knows nothing about technology or computers. Just to show you this, okay? I love Eddie. I do. I love the guy's great. He cannot log out of Facebook because if he does, he won't get back in. He doesn't know his password.
Yeah, he's always logged in so that way he can.
We talked about it today. Tell me if I'm lying.
No, we did, because that way
he can't log out of Facebook because if he does, he won't get back in.
Yeah.
He doesn't know his password.
Right. That's how I am here. If I log out, I won't remember my password.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to stop here for a second because Eddie has always been compared, his whole career, to Jerry Lewis. And we're talking about a guy, Rick Saphire, who in fact was Jerry Lewis's friend and was his manager
and confidant,
like personal real life manager for 60 plus years, his whole life, pretty much. Right?
His best friend, kind of person that he could always turn to talk to about anything.
Confidant, his best friend, the guy that he would tell everything to.
Everything.
He told stuff to Rick he wouldn't tell his wife.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
That's the kind of relationship Jerry Lewis had with this guy. And I want to set the table here because what we're actually talking about is a guy who I don't want to say ripped off Jerry Lewis because Eddie never did that.
No.
He never did pratfalls. Eddie never did slapstick. He did, in your face comedy, but always Eugene or the nerd from War Games or mob boss, like playing a geeky mob boss or Midnight Madness where he was, just kind of like off, completely off, right? Anyway, but you're talking about a guy that was, a damn good actor in his own right. So when he said that Jerry was his hero, you have to understand that he means that with a badge of honor. He's not copying the guy.
No.
He's just, it's like you heard him say that he took the voice and made it an octave higher. They're both skinny kids from, from the East Coast. They both had crew cuts. They're both Jewish. They're both, hey, lady, kind of shit like that, right?
He didn't mimic him, but he kind of made his character toward Jerry Lewis.
Exactly. Exactly right. And so I wanted to put that out there so you guys understand what we're talking about. Okay, let's continue with this interview. Watch.
Is my favorite comedian, but you can't see that. Curly Howard's my favorite comedian in the world, but you can't see it in me. I don't look like him. But Jerry Lewis, I look like, I act like, I had kind of weird walk. No, I walk strange. I have bad scoliosis. My one hip is higher than the other, so when I walk, I look funny. It's just a comic walk, and I look kind of geeky like Jerry Lewis. That's because I have scoliosis. So I hope that answers your question. Is that enough?
Oh, God, sure.
Okay.
Please.
Should I ask my questions for Rick? Because I have a lot of questions for him.
Ask
Go ahead.
you want,
Okay,
as
Rick.
many questions as you want.
Okay, there was a famous article.
Fire, brother. Rapid
Okay.
fire.
And to say, like, again, with Jerry Lewis, not funny. And also, there was a kind of a, no offense, Rick, because I love Jerry. Please, I'm not insulting him at all. But there was kind of a mean, nasty side to him. He took on kind of this mean demeanor, becoming kind of like Buddy Love. And I think a lot of that was the meds he was taking, too. Jerry took a lot of meds. And I know that I became a mean person when I took my meds. So I
Now, I'm going to stop this interview for just a second, Amelia.
Yes.
I thought it was very interesting when you and I heard him say that today.
Yes.
I thought it was very interesting because one of the things I would never have thought
Yes.
is that the medicine made him that way.
Oh, it can. The medication can make
it
you turn.
absolutely can. But the only problem, it's not even a problem. I don't want to use that word.
No.
The only flaw in Eddie's argument is that Jerry was like that long before he took the medicines. He was like that long before. They say he was serious and arrogant.
Mhm.
You heard what he said.
Absolutely.
Dean Martin was the funny one.
Yes.
Jerry was the serious one.
Yes.
And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. And the bad part about that, like a Xanax or any kind of medication like that, can make you have a real bad side effect. And if you're already like that, it makes it worse.
It will intensify. If you're a prick, it'll make you a dick.
Yes.
Yeah. Hate to put it like that.
No, you're telling the truth.
I like what Eddie said today. He said, "Oh, never mind. So I can't share it. I would love to share it, but I can't." Amelia knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I can't. I'm sorry, folks. I love you all, but I can't share this. Watch this.
Got a bird's eye view of how they can affect the person, and otherwise, nice, affable person can turn mean when you put these drugs in them. Because I did horrible stuff. I said horrible things to my sister. I don't think I did anything to my mom, thank God, but I did things to my brother. My brother, I did mean things to. My roommate in LA, he said he had a roommate. And I took his clothes and I put salad dressing in them. I was mixing salad dressing in with his clothes. That's something a rational person wouldn't do. And I would never do that if I wasn't on Xanax and all these drugs. So it makes Jack crazy. Rick, I'm sure you know the exact meds Jerry was taking, but I've heard many interviews when he was taking all these drugs because he had the pain in his back, and the poor guy was in pain. So he had to take these meds. And I'm sure that affected his mind too.
All right. So what he's talking about, let me tell everybody what he's talking about if you don't know. All right. So in 1967, Eddie, I'm sorry, Eddie, listen to me, Eddie. In 1967, Jerry was performing in Las Vegas. Okay. And he did what's called a pratfall, which is like a fake trip, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, what happened was he really fell. And when he landed backwards, and there was a microphone, part of a microphone cord,
right,
sticking up out of the floor. It went right into his back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In fact, I want to show you what it was right here.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll look at this microphone here.
Yes.
Imagine this sticking up like this on the stage.
Oh, yes.
He fell right on top of it.
Oh my goodness.
Like right on like this, like right on top of it. It went right into his back.
Oh, yeah.
And not just his back, but it went into the lower of his back.
Oh, wow.
And he wasn't the same after that. We talked at great length how he became dependent on pills.
Yes.
Opiates. Jerry Lewis was, and I'm not speaking ill of the dead. I promise you, I'm really not. Jerry Lewis was an opiate junkie for quite a long time. Even his manager told us last night.
Yes.
Rick Saphire told us last night. All right, so let's watch this.
Anyway, Rick, my first question is, there was the famous article when I got out of the hospital, 2022, was in Vanity Fair about Jerry sexually harassing all these women. Now, I don't know if you addressed this in the book, but I'd like to know the true story about this. If one woman comes forward, it could be an Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas thing. He said, she said, maybe she's lying. But this interview had 4 different women saying Jerry, masturbated in front of him and did all this stuff. And, we have sex with me. And then the one woman said he wouldn't. And she said Jerry gave her the cold shoulder through the rest of the film. Are these women's stories correct? Do they have credence? Did Jerry do that kind of stuff? And I'm just curious to know. It doesn't make me like Jerry any less because he was flawed like all of us. We're all flawed. We're human beings. We do stupid things. And guys are stupid sexually. Women are much higher evolved than men. This is a fact. Women are just higher evolved and more intelligent sexually. Women can be sane and rational, and guys will do crazy, stupid things. The horrible part is, of course, rape is its furthest extreme, which we would never do that. But guys do horrible things, and women don't do these evil, horrible things sexually. Women might do mean things in other ways, but they don't do sexual things like men. This is an aberration of men, and that's why maybe a woman president would be better. Who knows? But let's not get into that. But anyways, I wanted to know if that's true. That's my first question to you, Rick.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions?
Let's see. Let me think. Oh God, I have them. This is asking Jerry Lewis. This is like when I did Polar Express.
Doing that.
Yeah.
Let me just tell everybody, Eddie
Sure.
Deezen is an actor and comedian, best known for playing his nerdy, geeky parts in films like Grease, Grease 2, Midnight Madness,
Right.
I Want to Hold Your Hand, one
Right.
of my favorites because I'm a Beatle freak.
Thank you. That was Bob Zemeckis' first movie. That was the first film Steven Spielberg ever produced. I Want to Hold Your Hand. It's a great movie.
Amazing film. 1941 is also one of my favorites. And, of course,
Thank you.
War Games. Who doesn't love War Games?
War Games,
He
yes.
has been a larger starring roles in films, and particularly independent films, such as Surf, Mob Boss.
Surf
Beverley
2.
Hills
Surf
Vamp.
2. There was no Surf 1. It was Surf 2. It was the first movie in history where there was a 2 and there was no 1. It was in the Guinness Book of World Records. So it was Surf
And
2.
Teenage Exorcist.
Teenage Exorcist, yes.
Eddie is also a
Now, after you see that movie, you don't need an exorcist.
And Eddie is a prolific voice actor whose
Yes.
most notable characters include Mandark in the Cartoon Network series Dexter's Laboratory,
Yes.
Snipes the Magpie in Rockadoodle,
Right.
Ned in Kim Possible, and
Right.
of course, the know-it-all kid in my favorite film, my favorite Christmas movie anyway, the Polar Express, co-starring our birthday boy, Tom Hanks.
Yes, exactly. And I want to just clarify one thing to make sure you know, Mad Dog. A lot of people think that was a voiceover job, but no, it was the craziest movie shoot in history. It was the first motion capture film. Tom, me, Nona Gay was the girl, the hero girl. That's Marvin Gaye's daughter. She was a lovely lady. And Peter Scolari was the lonely boy. So it was the 4 of us. We acted out the whole movie. We acted out the whole movie. Every day we get into scuba diver suits. They would glue a scuba cap to our head. They'd make these marks on our head and glue these electronic dots to our heads, the 4 of us. And we would act out the scene. Then they had a little Tom Hanks, a little kid Tom Hanks, a little kid me, a little kid Nona, a little kid Peter. They would act out the same scene. I'd go, hey, Santa Claus, I want all those presents. Cut. We do the scene. The little kid, the little Eddie, hey, Santa Claus, I want all those presents. They somehow morphed us into kids' bodies. But Polar Express was filmed. The whole movie was filmed. We acted with Tom Hanks. We acted out the whole movie.
I have stories behind the story.
Yeah.
One of the things.
Did you think it was voiceover, Amelia?
Last night, Eddie. One of the things that Rick and I spoke about last night was the Jerry Lewis, the father, Jerry Lewis, the private man.
Yes.
We spoke about something very topical, particularly now. Jerry's daughter Susan lives in Philadelphia. She's homeless. Rick and his family tried to give her a place to live. Apparently, there's some other issues going on with Susan.
Okay, back up. I never heard this. He has a daughter, Susan. Is this from his wife, Sandy?
I believe it is.
Why is she homeless?
I believe it is from, and we'll find out. Rick will tell us, I'm sure. but he
Well,
has
if it's from Sandy, it's quite. If it's from an affair Jerry had, then that's a different thing. I don't know. I don't know how you
yeah,
handle that. 'Cause
well, she
Jerry, I mean, we all know this. Jerry got around with women. He
oh,
liked
he
women. He was
sure
like
did.
Frank Sinatra. Yeah, he was like Frank Sinatra. He just, he
Yeah,
loved women and he screwed a lot of women. Again,
yeah,
women wouldn't usually do. Well, I guess the unfairness is if a woman acts like that, they're called a whore. But
yeah,
if a guy does it, he's cool, like Frank Sinatra.
yeah.
It's kind of the sexist part of our society.
It
That's a
Yeah.
really
true
is.
thing.
It really is. But here's the interesting thing, though. She looks just like him. She is she's the female Jerry. She looks just like him.
How old is she, Mad Dog?
She is 72 now.
Oh my God, she's been around. Oh my God, she's been around forever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
She's been
72,
around a
that
long
was probably
time.
with Patty. He wasn't with Sandy that long.
Yeah, and
72,
she
it would be with Patty.
and she is of course she spoke and tried to have a relationship with her brother Gary Lewis. Of course, Gary Lewis and the Playboys.
Right.
Apparently, there's other issues going on, but we wanted to talk, and I want you and I to address this with Rick Saphire, our
Sure.
guest tonight.
No, I'd like to hear about that. I didn't know this story.
Yeah, Jerry Lewis, the dad, Jerry Lewis, the private guy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we learned last night, Eddie, is that Jerry turned into America's favorite once the camera light was red.
Right.
Okay? And when it was off, he became this other guy.
Yes, exactly right. He's an enigma, but you're exactly right. He wasn't
Yeah,
supposedly the nice guy in the world. I met Kathleen Freeman, who did 13 films with Jerry. And the first thing, and she gave me a ride home that day. And she goes, ask me anything about Jerry Lewis. And I said, my first question is, tell me about Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Her exact words, Mad Dog, she goes, the first thing you have to know is Dean was the funny one. That's the first thing she said. So, you don't see it on screen. Obviously, Jerry's the funny one. Dean's the handsome ladies man, the crooner, the singer. But she said Dean was.
We just talked about that.
Yes.
And I want to address that because it's critical. It's critical. You heard what he said. He asked a person that did 13 movies with Jerry. All right?
Yes.
13 movies. You think she know him by now, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And she said Dean was the funny one.
Yes.
Jerry was the serious one.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Jerry that got all the laughs. Why? Because you have to have a partner, just like in wrestling. You got to have a partner that's going to put you over, make you look good, make you look strong, make you look like $1 million. And if he does that and he does his job well, you both look good.
Just like on anything we do together.
And that was lightning in a bottle, Amelia.
Yes.
Lightning in a bottle. But I thought it was very interesting that she would say that to Eddie.
Absolutely.
That, we're talking about a guy that's known as, the world's favorite funny man.
Absolutely.
Well, he was for a long time anyway, until this dark side
came out.
Look, it happens to everybody.
It does.
Look, you heard Eddie.
Absolutely.
He's going to give the example of Elvis.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if Eddie knew Elvis. I wouldn't put it past him because they probably crossed paths at some point. Although, God, when Elvis passed, Eddie would have been, I was 18, so he had to be 20. Because he's 67, I'm 65 tomorrow.
Right.
So he had to have been 20.
I'm not going to tell you my age, so.
Amelia, she's 54.
I was 6 when he passed, when Elvis passed. No.
You were just like an embryo.
I was 6 years old, but I knew who Elvis was.
Oh my God.
But I knew who Elvis was because my mom played Elvis records all the time.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
All the time. We had Elvis in our home.
Yeah.
We did.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll save that for another show.
Do you want to do a commercial?
Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up.
Oh,
look who's here.
That was so easy. Do you know what I had to do? Here I am.
Hi, Rick. How you doing?
Hello,
Very
Mr.
good, thank
Saphire.
you.
We
And,
were
good
just
evening.
about. That's funny, Rick. We were just about to go to commercial, which is perfect timing, and then we're going to come back because Eddie Deezen is here by videotape, and
Oh,
he's got.
interesting. I
We,
didn't know they
he's
made videotape anymore. Wow.
well, yeah, he's
This
here.
is
We
retro.
actually, when we come back, I'll tell you what happened.
All right, I'll be
All right,
anxious
so
to
let's
hear.
do this this spot
I want to see the
from our
commercial.
friends at Manscaped. Oh no,
Okay.
actually, yeah, our friends
Yeah.
at Manscaped. Do you have sweaty balls or volleyball netty balls? It's time to make them ready balls. The Manscaped.com Lawnmower 3.0 will do the job and clean your knob with its patented no-nick head, so your head will function as desired. Enter promo code Wrestling Future for a generous 20% discount. That's enter Wrestling Future for a 20% discount. Manscaped.com and Wrestling with the Future, going balls to the walls with Manscaped.com and the Lawnmower 3.0. Your balls will thank you, and so will we. You're listening to What's the Buzz, America's Best Podcast on WWTF Radio 88.7 around the globe. Tonight, the real Jerry Lewis story by its author, Rick Saphire, man who knew him well, perhaps a little more than he wanted to sometimes. Rick, welcome back to night number 2, my friend. How are you?
Well, I'm very happy to be here. Hold on, I had to actually take my entire room and move it so that
I am so happy that you joined us tonight. Again, we we all know by now. Last night, we were anxiously awaiting Eddie Deezen to be here, and of course, Eddie is technologically challenged. We've discovered. We were fortunate enough today, Rick, to get Eddie Deezen's IP guy on the line with us. So we actually went ahead, Amelia and I, and we pre-recorded questions from Eddie for you.
Very nice.
So what we're doing
I'm going to pre-record my answers. Okay. So you can play those.
What we're and because we knew that if Eddie tried to get on tonight, we would have another debacle.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is thank him for giving us his time today. And I want to bring something to your attention. When you just popped in here, Eddie was talking about working with Jerry's co-star on 13 films. And she said, well, I want to let him tell the story, but here's basically what he says.
Okay.
They're called a whore. But if a guy does it, he's cool, like Frank Sinatra, you know. Yeah. It's kind of the sexist part of our society. That's a true thing.
It really is. But here's the interesting thing, though. She looks just like him. She is she's the female Jerry. She looks just like him.
How old is she, Mad Dog?
She is 72 now.
Oh my God, she's been around. Oh my God, she's been around forever.
Oh yeah.
So 72, that was probably with Patty. He wasn't with Sandy that long. Yeah. 72, it would be with Patty.
And she is, of course, you know, she spoke and tried to have a relationship with her brother Gary Lewis. Of course, Gary Lewis and the Playboys.
Right.
Apparently, there's other issues going on, but we wanted her to talk, and I want you and I to address this with Rick Saphire, our guest tonight.
No, I'd like to hear about that. I didn't know this story.
Yeah, Jerry Lewis, the dad, Jerry Lewis, the private guy. One of the things we learned last night, Eddie, is that Jerry turned into America's favorite once the camera light was red.
Right.
Okay? And when it was off, he became this other guy.
Yes, exactly right. He's an enigma, but you're exactly right. He wasn't supposedly the nice guy in the world. I met Kathleen Freeman, who did 13 films with Jerry. And the person, you know, and she gave me a ride home that day. And she goes, ask me anything about Jerry Lewis. And I said, my first question is, tell me about Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Her exact words, Mad Dog, she goes, the first thing you have to know is Dean was the funny one. That's the first thing she said. So, you know, you don't see it on screen. Obviously, Jerry's the funny one. Dean's the handsome ladies man, the crooner, the singer. But she said Dean was the funny one. Jerry was very serious in real life. He wasn't the funny Jerry Lewis we all think of. Jerry was a Jekyll and Hyde type character. There's no question about it.
Eddie,
Yeah.
I will tell you that Rick Saphire last night almost verbatim, word for word, said what you just said right now.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Jerry
Yeah.
was the serious one.
Right. Jerry was the serious one. And he was a genius, you know, but he was multifaceted.
Clearly.
It was almost.
What do you make of that, Rick?
Well, I think it's very interesting, but you see, it depends on what kind of humor you like. If you like Jerry's brand of humor, then Jerry was the funny one, and Dean was the type of person who his humor was unexpected because he'd come out with a funny line or he'd do something silly or whatever.
Yeah.
But he seemed like the adult in the room, and when he did something funny or crazy, you would notice it. With Jerry, it was expected. Kathleen Freeman got it right. And the last thing that Eddie said, well, he talked about this genius. You know, I have an issue with this genius thing because, I mean, you know, it's something that can't be diagnosed. But yeah, no, I mean, it's there was certainly a certain truth to that. I'm trying to remember what film Kathleen Freeman made with Martin and Lewis. I know she did a lot with Jerry. He liked her. He liked Helen Traubel. He liked others, you know, women who he played off of. But
yeah, he specifically mentioned Helen Freeman. Yep.
Yeah, Kathleen Freeman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kathleen Freeman. Yes.
Yeah. No. Kathleen Freeman was terrific. Jerry loved her. Jerry loved women with a good comedic sense. Comedic actors, and that's really what Jerry was. You know, in my book, I talk about the fact that Jerry was always acting. When he was funny, he was acting. When he was serious, he was acting. When he was writing love letters, and I got a stack of them to Patty, he was acting. But that's who he was.
That's exactly what we want to talk to you about.
Okay.
Nobody can seem to pinpoint who the hell Jerry Lewis really is. Who is he? What is he? Is he an enigma, or is he a riddle wrapped up in enigma? Or is he a guy who wants you to think he's this enigma?
Jerry didn't know who he was. I can't give it away, but the last chapter of the book is very short.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty powerful, and it tells you who he was.
Yeah.
But, and, you know, unfortunately at this point, I still have to be a book salesman.
Yeah. Oh, God, sure. No, don't tip the hat, because I will tell you right now, you've got 3 confirmed sales on this show.
Oh, good. Then I can go out after.
Yeah. Eddie Deezen he wants this book now.
Well, he get it. You know, I mean, the ebook, the print edition is going to be, you know, it's going to be a while. Excuse me. The ebook is very simple, because with an ebook that you can use on a Kindle. This is my Kindle. I don't sell Kindle, but this is it.
Sure.
The ebook, you can take that same file and you can put it on your regular computer, and you can read the book there too. Right now, in a short period of time, I'm also going to have the ebook available, and maybe in the next 2 days or so, as a PDF, and you could read that on your father's old pocket watch. You know, you can.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You'll be able to see a PDF everywhere, and then the book will come out.
Yeah. We started talking last night, Rick, about and today with Eddie, we started talking about Jerry, the dad, the private guy, the husband. You mentioned something critical to me last night. When the camera was on, he was a different guy. He was on for America.
Yes, he was.
Okay. Why? And I pondered this all night. I really did. Why the hell did he? Why get married? Why did he get married a few times? And why the need to bring children into his relationship? He clearly did not like children. He clearly did not like children. or at least he didn't like his own. Let's put it that way. He may
Well,
have loved other people's children.
Yeah, they interfered with his life.
Yeah.
Fact of the matter is, Jerry. We'll go back a little bit to Jerry's young days as a record mime starting out.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry fell in love with this Italian girl singer who was beautiful, had dark hair. He loved her voice, he loved her style, and he developed an incredible crush on her.
Mm-hmm.
And her name was Lily Ann Carroll. Lily Ann Carroll was the girl singer with Louis Prima. And before Keely Smith, Lily Ann Carroll was the one who kind of created the deadpan that Louis Prima always bounced off of when he was singing with Keely.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Lily Ann Carroll, and now I'll go back to Jerry and Lily Ann.
Sure.
Lily Ann Carroll eventually married a guy named Joe Barone. Joe Barone and Lily Ann Carroll did the best Louis Prima and Keely Smith you ever saw, but it was Joe Barone and Lily Ann Carroll. And I knew Lily Ann very well.
Yeah.
We used to have lunch together 3-4 days a week.
Yeah.
Because she and her husband, Joe Barone, at one period of time were the house act for the Night Owl Lounge nightclub at the Concord Hotel in the Catskills.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I was the director of activities at the Concord Hotel. I started off on the social staff, and then one thing led to the other. And
I have to tell you, Rick, I have a Louis connection. I do. I really do. My father was dear friends with Sam Butera.
Yeah.
And of course, Sam Butera was the Louis sax player, and of course, he had his own band called Sam Butera and the Wildest. And after Louis passed, Keely, of course, was still around, and her and Sam got together, and you know that story.
Yeah.
And so this connection, it's kind of funny how everything connects to everything else. How did that relationship, because I've heard other people talk about Lily Ann Carroll and Jerry Lewis as a couple.
Never a couple.
Never a couple. Well, no, they were never a couple, but they were often together. Let's put it that way.
They worked together. They were on the same bill for a while. I don't remember what club, and I have it in my archives here. But they worked together, and Lily and Jerry was just absolutely crushed.
Okay, so I want to make sure that, because we have some information that suggested, and I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth, but we have information that suggested that there was more to their relationship than just being on the same card together.
No, not at all.
Okay, all right.
And if you're getting wrong information and you like wrong information, you want to get this book, which is filled with misinformation. All of them are filled with all of them are filled with misinformation.
Okay.
Jerry.
All right.
Jerry wanted to be with Lily Ann. She was 4 or 5 years older than he was. She liked him. He was a likable, little guy. His act was funny. Yeah. Jerry's act, when he did his record act, his record mime act ran from 12 to 14 minutes, and that was it.
Yeah.
He was either an opening act or an intermission act. Yeah. An intermission act was often used when they had to reset the stage for the next act, or the curtain closed.
Sure.
And Jerry would come on in front of the curtain while they were setting up the band for the featured act. All right.
Yeah.
So he had this crush on Lily Ann Carroll.
Okay.
He went to Philadelphia to perform, and he was left in New York. And he called her on the phone and said, I'd like to come and see Lily Ann. She said, well, you're welcome to, Jerry. He got on a bus from Manhattan at the Port Authority, got on a bus and took the bus to Newark, which he was very familiar with. Sure. And it was a nightclub where Lily Ann was performing. and he got in because his show was over, whenever it was over, midnight, 12:30 at night.
Right.
Knocked on her door and woke her up, but she got it all together, and she opened up the door and she said, Jerry, yeah, come on in. Jerry came in. She sat down. She was on the bed, sat on the bed. Jerry sat on a chair, and Jerry started talking romantic.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, Jerry, I really like you. You're very nice. You're a lot of fun. You're going to be great for some girl, but you're not for me.
Yeah.
And he
that makes a lot of sense then, given what I heard. There are people, and I'm sure you've heard these stories. I'm sure you've heard them all. But
Yep.
There's probably nothing I'm going to tell you haven't heard. So
that's okay. I'll act surprised.
Okay. That's great. But yeah, I mean, so you understand why it is easy for people to assume these things.
Yeah.
It's a natural assumption for people to, oh, well, they were together or they had a romantic, relationship or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. No, not
I
at all.
personally don't see it. I really don't. He was, again, the research we were doing said he was quite a melancholy guy when he wasn't being the monkey, to use that word.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was his escape. That was he obviously got attention with being the monkey, and he was liked when he was being silly and whatever. So this was his way of being liked. Now, shortly, within weeks or months after this situation with Lillian Carroll, Jerry was booked to play I guess it's the Downtown Theater in Detroit, and with Ted Fiorito. Jerry was put in as the unadvertised intermission act. And I've got something that is fabulous. I'd like to show you if I can find it. Maybe if you take another commercial break, I'll
Yeah, it's time for one.
after I finish trying to figure out what that last commercial break was selling. But anyway,
the last commercial break was selling a male grooming product called Manscaped.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's Amelia's favorite product on this show.
Oh, I can imagine. She uses it herself.
Actually, I'll tell you what, we are actually ready for another break. Why don't we do this? We'll save our Pepsi commercial for last. This will give us 1 minute and 1 second. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Jess wanted to start a business when something surprising happened.
Today I'm going to teach you how to crochet.
She started crocheting, like a lot. And her friends noticed.
Jess, you need to sell those.
So she signed up for Shopify and started building her business.
Yes, I love that.
And after a lot of hard work, this happened.
Oh my gosh, I just made my first sale!
You see, every day, hundreds of businesses get their first sale on Shopify.
We got ding!
And the next could be you. So when you're ready to bring your idea to life
And become your own boss.
build it on Shopify.
What's the buzz? America's best podcast on the record on the Wrestling with the Future Radio Network, 88.7 on the broadband radio system. We are back with Rick Saphire, author of The Real Jerry Lewis Story, Volume 1. This is just the first. I think there's got to be at least 3 books inside Rick Saphire.
Wow.
I think there's at least 3.
He's like,
We'll see. We'll see. You know, my wife,
That's like giving birth. You got to push another baby out. Come on, Rick.
yeah. Well,
So let me ask you a question then. What one of the things I always want to find out from authors is the catalyst for writing the book. What was the motivating factor? And I if I know anything about you, I know it wasn't financial. If I know anything about you, it wasn't to write a tell-all. There was something you had to be wanting to get off your chest. What was the catharsis of the book? Was it just therapy for you?
You know, since you and I started talking, I now have to look up 3 words.
Yes, sir.
Catharsis. I got to look it up. I got to look up. There were a couple other ones. Amelia, could you ask to use like regular words?
I know that I have to look
gotta
them
look
up
up
too.
catharsis.
So don't
All
worry,
right.
I feel like the same thing. I have
Yeah,
to
I
look
know.
them up.
Well, you and I will talk. I'll answer your question.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'll answer your question.
Okay.
So you don't look into the thesaurus now.
Yes.
This story, Jerry was so much part of my life, and I don't like to make. Some people think, well, sure, I knew a star, so I have to kind of horn in on his life. That's not how it happened.
No.
Right.
And I'm blessed with the fact that since I started representing celebrities in late 1960s or 1970, I had already had a whole career as a kid entertainer and all. And I loved these people, many of them. And I only represented, for the most part, my heroes.
Yes.
Jerry was my first hero. But who was my first client? Spanky McFarland of the
Little Rascals, our gang, sure.
And for 15 years, we traveled the country with a nostalgia show, and I represented. I mean, imagine being a kid who grew up with television, early television, watching the Little Rascals and the Our Gang. And one day, here I am sitting in my living room, my wife Sheila by my side. In front of me is Steiny Beard, Spanky McFarland, and Darla Hood, all sitting in my living room at night having a conversation.
I had the biggest crush on Darla.
Sure.
Man, I didn't realize she was 55 years old at the time. She was still like 7 years old.
I was talking to somebody today. I had a huge crush on Gary Lewis's mother. How can a person say that about someone's mother? When I spent 2 weeks, and I write all about it in the book, when I spent 2 weeks in Manhattan, waiting to go on the Tonight Show with Jerry, because he took over the show for 2 weeks, and he told me he's going to put me on, but didn't tell me what night. So I have in my religion, we call it shpilkis. That means nerves on end.
It's funny you should mention the Tonight Show and Jerry Lewis. I was actually watching the Best of Johnny Carson last night, and Jerry was the guest, and he was promoting his new film, The King of Comedy.
Right. Yeah.
Were you with him at that event?
No.
Okay.
I wasn't.
When did you and Jerry part ways?
All right. Well, we never really parted ways. My relationship with Jerry was actually threefold. As a youngster, I met Jerry when I was 6. Uncle Ernie took me. We were staying in the Catskills at Brown's. Jerry, for some reason, to this day, I don't know why, Jerry was having lunch at Grossinger's, which was Brown's competition, about 3 miles down Route 52 in the Catskills. I know that area like the back of my hand. And in any event, Uncle, I don't have a picture of me with Jerry at that first meeting, but I have a picture of Uncle Ernie, my mother, my sister Joni, and me outside of Grossinger's before we went in to see Jerry. That's when I first met him. We had a short conversation. Then when Jerry found out that I was an aspiring entertainer and Uncle Ernie was really helping me, because I guess I was one of those precocious kids who wanted to be in showbiz, but Uncle Ernie saw something. He treated me like a son. And Jerry started helping me in various ways. And when Uncle Ernie kidnapped me for 2 weeks to stay with him at the Essex House Hotel in New York, when Jerry and Patty were in, because Jerry was hosting the Tonight Show during the interim period between Jack Parr and before Johnny Carson's contract with ABC was up. So they had rotating guest hosts. So Sales did it for a week. Everybody in show business seemed to have done it for a week or 2 weeks.
Oh, God, sure.
Jerry, it was so incredibly entertaining. He was at the height of his career. Sans Dean Martin. And so in the hotel room, Jerry said, Ricky, I'd like you to be on the show with me. There was a reason for it, which I really go into detail, but it's not that important here. But then Jerry was my mentor. So that was the second, first I was a kid. He was my friend. I was excited to know that Jerry Lewis, the guy from TV, I knew him personally. None of my friends would believe me.
Right.
So, that's like, if I would have had a relationship with some celebrity lady, aside from the fact that I'm married, I couldn't tell my friends because nobody would believe me. Just as Jerry never expected anybody to take him seriously when he talked about his affair with Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
And, the only thing that Jerry said about his affair with Marilyn Monroe was that after having an affair with Marilyn Monroe, he couldn't walk for 2 weeks. That was all he said about it. And the media ran with the story. Why were there pictures of Jerry and Marilyn Monroe? They were never in a movie together.
No.
They weren't. But Marilyn Monroe was on Jerry's radio show, on the Martin and Lewis radio show. She was terrible. I think it was the only radio show she ever did. All the stars were doing radio. You don't hear much about that. Even Frank Sinatra had a fabulous short-run 6-month radio show called Rocky Fortune. Every week you heard another radio adventure of Rocky. I have all the episodes. Great stuff. But the actors did radio because, even if you were a big star, you only made a couple of movies a year.
Sure.
And then it was 6 months before they released. You had to do something in the interim.
Oh my God, yeah.
Lux Radio Theater. Okay. Where am I? I have no idea.
Right.
But anyway.
It's all good.
What was the question? Okay. So now I'm Jerry's protege.
Yes.
He got me a lot of publicity. I don't know what I have here in the office. I was in all the teenage magazines. Jerry had a deal with the Sterling Publications that published Teen Life magazine. Well, I wound up with a full page in Teen Life magazine, and that scored a lot of points with some of the girls back in those days. When I knew that, I went to the store, to the magazine store, and there was the cover of the magazine that I knew I was in, and I looked, and I had a full page. I didn't expect a full page in Teen Life, but what was most exciting to me, when I turned the page, there was a full page picture of Haley Mills, who I had such a crush on. Haley Mills.
Yeah, who didn't?
Well, but I was able to hold my page up to the light and see both of us together. That goes through a.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
The mind of a kid. Meanwhile, scene changes years later, and I'm on an airplane flying to Phoenix, Arizona, with Haley Mills sitting next to me, going to a personal appearance. But that's I was very lucky. I represented people who were my heroes, and I always called myself a lazy representative, a lazy manager, because I only represented people who were already famous.
Right.
So, I couldn't help people. I can't. My son plays the nose flute. Can you help me get him into show business? If you want to ask me about what a nose flute is, I could do 15 minutes. But anyway, it is really the musical.
Well, I want to take another look at the interview we did with Eddie today, and let's take.
I want to ask you one question though, and then we'll break for that.
Sure.
Is there any way that I can show a video clip on here? I'm on my Mac. I'm on a computer. Is there any way I could drag and drop a video in so that people can see it?
Oh, yeah, oh damn. I could do it for you if I had the clip.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's see if we can do it, because the fans and you especially will like this. I promise you will. But I'm going to drop this into our little communication thing here.
Okay.
All right. I don't want to type a message. I just want to send it. Okay. It's coming to you.
All righty.
Good.
And this is on the right half of the screen. I shot the video. On the left half of the screen, I arranged for what is happening. So if you can see it, I think this will thrill those people who are interested in this stuff.
Okay. Amelia, you have it on your end?
Not yet.
Oh, it's a video, so it may take a moment or two
Oh, okay. I got you. I got
Yeah.
you covered.
to get there.
Mhm.
I put a stamp
Alrighty.
on it.
All right, if we're able to do that, that would
Yeah.
be great. I'd love to
Yeah.
see it.
I can't wait to see it.
In the
Absolutely.
interim, we have an amazing show we did with Eddie Deezen today.
Yeah, let's see. Let's
and
see a
Rick
little bit of that.
Saphire questions, and
Mhm.
just as soon as that book comes out in
Hardcover.
physical paper form,
I
Right.
love paper form.
yeah,
Yeah. My favorite.
well, I love holding a book in my hand
Me
anyway.
too.
I know.
I've got a small
Yeah.
library over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Between my books and my records, I don't have room to walk. No room
I
to
know.
walk down here.
There's nothing like a
Records. Now,
paper-
those are those big round things with the hole in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Records. Yeah. I
Those are
remember.
the
Yes,
best
and they're
things
not
because
I was a
giant
little boy, I had that.
CDs, folks.
yeah. Yeah, I know,
Did I ever
right?
tell you that I had a 45 in my hand? Somebody said, "Oh, where'd you get that crazy CD?" I said,
I know.
"CD."
Here's a record.
Yeah,
Now, you see
that's
this
the
record?
record.
Oh my God, Jimmy Palmer, sure.
Who is Jimmy Palmer? Come on.
I remember who Jimmy Palmer was. He was a couple of things you needed. First of all, he was a hell of a trumpet player. Number one.
Yes.
Number two, I believe he had the band. It was called, I know one of the first ones he had was called the Jimmy Palmer 3.
That I don't remember. That I don't know.
And I see him sitting in front of a recording setup.
Right.
I don't know what that's all about, but I
Well, it was just from
remember,
the album.
yeah, I remember him as a trumpeter.
Yeah, I could do a whole show on Jimmy Palmer. Jimmy Palmer was Patty Lewis's first husband that nobody knows about.
Ah, gotcha.
And what a terrific musician and entertainer. And I fully believe that when Jerry and Patty got married, because that was your first question, when Jerry and Patty got married, I don't think Jerry knew that Patty had been just recently divorced from Jimmy Palmer. And the media never, ever asked Patty, gee, how do you ever come up with the stage name Patty Palmer?
Yeah.
Never asked her, and I don't know if she was told. And in her book, in Patty's book, I Laughed Till I Cried.
Right, yeah.
Oh, wow.
She never mentions the first marriage.
Wow.
I don't know why, except Gary told me that he didn't know that his mom had been married previously until a few years before.
Well, it would make sense to me, Rick, especially if Jerry was still alive at the time of the publication of his book. It would make perfect sense why she would either not mention it or deny it if it ever came up.
They didn't have any children. She and Jimmy didn't have any children.
Yeah.
It was a short-lived marriage. Everybody's entitled to a first try.
Sure.
But it was never mentioned, and apparently the boys didn't know about it. And I don't think that Jerry knew about it until.
Well, I'll tell you what, I say what I say for a reason. Given Jerry's temperament, given his clear and obvious temperament, it was probably wise of her not to say anything or mention it.
Well,
I mean,
Patty didn't write the
take
book
on it.
Patty didn't write the book until after they were divorced and everything was settled. And so, yeah, I mean, they weren't even seeing each other anymore. She got screwed out of a lot. She had that beautiful house.
I'm sure.
She lost the house. She lost everything. So, very, very, very sad story. But let's look at Eddie Deezen because I want to see a little bit.
Let's take a look at this.
Yes.
Too much genius to contain in one head or something. He had all this stuff going on. The guy was so brilliant, and he couldn't keep control of himself. I don't know.
But arguably, and I said this last night, and nobody can dispute this. Arguably, there's no Jerry Lewis without Dean Martin.
I agree. He was at his best with Dean Martin. Dean Martin offset because Jerry was a bit much for a lot of people. He's too much. A lot of people like him, but he was like really over the top. He's kind of like, I don't know, Boy George or somebody when Boy George first came out, or what is this thing? He was a very funny guy, but he was too much for a lot of people. He had legions of fans, but a lot of people disliked Jerry. He was probably maybe the most disliked comedian. Whereas let's say a Bob Hope, it was pretty much was universally loved. Bob Hope was universally loved in his career. Somebody like that. Charlie Chaplin was pretty universally loved until the communist stuff later. But Jerry was a bit much, and Dean kind of brought him back down. Dean kind of brought him back, and there's this cool guy. Wait a minute, women can get into Dean Martin. Jerry's exact words. He said, Dean got the men, the women, and the Italians. He said, I got the women, the kids, and the Jews. He said, between us, that covers everybody. But Dean kind of got that market that Jerry didn't have, and they covered everything. There was somebody for everybody to like. The Beatles, I'm a Beatles nut. I've read over 1,000 books on the Beatles. John Lennon said, none of us could have made it alone. He goes, Paul wasn't quite strong enough. He goes, I didn't have enough girl appeal. Ringo was a drummer and George was too quiet. He goes, but we figured everybody could find one of us to love. And that's what happened with the Beatles. Everybody had their favorite Beatle and everybody could associate with one of the Beatles. You don't like John and Yoko, so you like Ringo. You don't like George with his mystical stuff. You like Paul. Women, of course, loved Paul. He was the cute one. Ringo, you kind of felt he was an underdog. But it was kind of the same thing with Martin Luther. In the 50s, this is the irony of Elvis. In the 50s, he was looked on as this menace to women and, this sex maniac and this horrible guy, this drug addict. And he was a sweet country boy. He wasn't doing any of that stuff. He was just this sweet country boy. He just started singing, and nobody'd ever done those pretzel kind of dancing. Nobody'd ever been like Elvis. And of course, women would flip for him. He was a very handsome guy. And then, ironically, he was the all-American boy. He joined the Army. That's when he started taking drugs. He started taking these pills to stay up at night and all, and he got hooked on drugs. And what you say, Mad Dog's kind of what I thought of is he kind of became Elvis towards the end. He became so weird, and he was kind of this character 24 hours a day. Hey, man, where's my car? Make me all this bacon. And he just became this weird character. It was like a cartoon character. And, the early Elvis, if you look at Elvis in the 50s and look on YouTube, look at some of the interviews he gives, he's a very sweet, innocent kid.
A caricature of himself.
He became a character of himself. And Jerry's kind of similar. I could see that. Jerry had like an almost Elvis Presley kind of fame. Elvis Presley's the biggest star you could ever imagine. And Jerry and Dean and Jerry were, the Beatles. These are the biggest stars you could ever become.
Right. He talks about Jerry being the Elvis of comedy, but also having the same idiosyncrasies and quirks and physical hang-ups that Elvis had. The drugs, the paranoia, the need to be look at me, the need to be the center of attention. You knew the guy. Right. And so how close is Eddie to that narrative?
Well, the narrative, it's pretty close. Of course, those of us who remember Elvis and remember him from the very beginning up until the very end realize, he went from being Elvis Presley and going into the Army and coming back and trying to be Liberace. You look at his stage persona with the spangly clothes and, whatever. He wasn't a good Liberace. He was still popular when he was heavy and older because he was able to sweat. Performers that sweat are very popular. Seriously, because people think that they're working real, real hard.
Yeah, that's what killed Jackie Wilson.
Yeah.
Sweating literally killed Jackie Wilson. He was taking salt pills.
Really?
Yes, he was. I'll tell you when, and I know this because I was there the night after he collapsed on stage.
Wow.
And it was at the Dick Clark Rock and Roll Caravan at the Latin Casino in Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Yeah, right. That's where I am right now, Cherry Hill.
Exactly. And I was there the next night because I was supposed to be there that night.
That's what you said.
Jackie Wilson used to take salt pills to sweat.
Yeah.
And it was ironic that Elvis Presley paid for his medical bills.
Oh, boy.
The day he died.
So Jackie Wilson was assaulted.
Yes. He was assaulted and insulted.
By the way, when people would ask me about Elvis Presley, what do you think about Elvis? Do you think he's still alive? Because that was the big rumors. Is Elvis really still alive? So I always said, Yes, he is very much alive. He was able to take off a few pounds. He hated all the attention. He couldn't stand it, but he still wanted to perform. So now he goes around as an Elvis impersonator. Maybe he did.
Yeah,
Let me find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I talk to Elvis?
I'll tell you a little connection. Amelia has a connection to Elvis. Her husband, Jeff, used to work at Graceland.
Oh, yeah, I was there.
And knew Elvis's father.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
And he met Priscilla as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, Jeff knew Vernon Presley. Yeah.
Well,
so
I could do a half hour on Elvis.
one of the things that that
Did you get the
Eddie
video,
wanted
by
me
the way,
to.
Amelia,
Yes, sir.
the video that I sent along, did it come through?
It did not hear. It did not. No.
All right. I'm going to try one other thing because you will absolutely love it. I mean, I wish there was a way that I can't turn. There may be another way to do this because it's worth the effort.
Sure.
And let me see if I can do this. I have to turn up the volume.
Oh, there you go. Sure.
Let's see if I can make
That'll
this.
work. We call that old school around here.
Absolutely. Yes.
How about our old school, Amelia? We do this with the phone.
Absolutely, right? We do that all the time, facing it.
When people can't get in, we take the phone
and put it right up to the microphone. Yes.
Yeah.
Like we used to do back in old radio back in the day. But one of the things Eddie Deezen wanted me to ask you is he wants to know if it's in the book. And you don't have to say anything here.
Yeah.
But he wanted to know what the real reason was that Jerry was so committed to the muscular dystrophy telethon and all of that.
Because they were committed to him. He did not have a son or a daughter with muscular dystrophy. There was nothing like that.
Yeah.
My wife always liked to say about Jerry, and Sheila is the co-author of the book. She used to say that Jerry always liked to make a mystery out of bullshit.
Oh,
and I could tell you the whole story of how it all started with the Muscular Dystrophy Association. It's in the book, but it would be. It'd be
and I want it to remain in the book because I want people to buy the book.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot that we want people.
You have 3 sales here. Well, that's a given.
Oh, that's very nice. All right, I'm trying to find this video on here. So talk to each other for a minute.
Yeah,
it'll be worth it. I promise.
Well, I want to put this up here. We'll talk to Eddie for a little bit here.
Amelia,
questions for
please, Amelia. I haven't talked to you enough. Please.
I know, right? You do remind me a lot of Jerry Lewis, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll take. There's a couple of. Because you can ask Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra. What's your favorite song you did? What do you think's the best song? He's heard these a million times. You can't think of anything new to say to these guys. So anyway, Jerry Lewis. Okay, so I go to meet him. Mr. Lewis, you're my favorite comedian. I think you're the greatest guy in the world. My favorite movie of yours is Rockabye Baby or whatever I told him, Dead silence. He did literally. Crickets. There's crickets. He gives me the deep freeze. I did about 3 or 4 of these takes. Mr. Lewis, I've seen all your movies and all. I'm a comedian myself, and I patterned myself after you and done it. Dead silence. Crickets. Da-da-da. Finally, I did about 4 or 5 times. He either got bored with me or he took sympathy on me. He said, this poor Schlemiel. And he goes, thank you. He said it just that way. No grace, no affinity, no real affinity. It's like, oh, I really think you're a great comedian. I really think you're good. It's like he said, literally, thank you. It's like the kid, thank your grandma for giving you the sweater for Christmas, Billy. Thank you, grandma. And he gave me kind of this mean thank you. That's all.
And that was Eddie talking about meeting Jerry, patterning his career after him, and Jerry
if you want to cut a conversation short, with Jerry, may he rest in peace. Tell him how great you think he is. He has no. Tell him, do an imitation of Jerry, and he'll throw you out of the room. He hates it. Hated impersonators. He didn't like to hear people say how wonderful he was. But if you say, Jerry, I got this Leica camera that was my father's, and I don't know how to work it, he'll spend an hour and a half with you and helping you learn how to work the camera because that's what he loved. I don't think he felt that he was fitting, deserving, very strange character. But I'm ready for this. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. Here we go. Press the magic button. Press the button.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
Couple more seconds.
Remarkable.
Here, watch this part. It's almost over. And that's Susan and Jerry.
I have actually seen both of those previously. And if I had known that that's what you were going to show, I would have uploaded because I actually have both of those. I do. I have them both.
I remember that typewriter because I used to do that in high school. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the book is The Real Jerry Lewis Story, Volume 1. It is the first in what I hope are 3 volumes. I know there's at least 2 books, at least 2. Like a Labor of Love, Rick Saphire is going to squeeze at least one more out.
Well, one more book, and I'm hoping here's my hope.
Yes, sir.
I have made a few calls to Netflix, and there seems to be some interest.
Yay.
I would like to see the book become either a mini series or a movie special, and a year from March, March 26th, 2026 will be Jerry's 100th birthday.
Wow.
Wouldn't that be a great time for them to broadcast the movie? Because it'll take them a while to get it together.
Yeah, sure.
And that's really my dream, my hope for the next big thing with the
I would love nothing more than to see that come to fruition. We're just going to put it out there to the universe. Nobody's going to jinx it, and let's see what the universe brings back.
Yeah.
Before we do anything, after the show, don't go anywhere. I have an important message from you from Eddie Deezen.
Oh, sure. Right.
Yeah. Amelia.
Yes.
What do we got coming up? This is all you, kid.
Yes. Tomorrow we have a great show. We have That's Bullshit with Rick and Stretch coming up. So
Our
anything
new
goes.
show, That's Bullshit,
Yes.
with Rico and Stretch tomorrow night. Amelia is the co-host. God help them.
No, I'm the producer.
She's
They're
the co-host of That's Bullshit, and
Mhm.
yeah, I think Eddie Deezen had the best response to that. He goes, I should star in that show.
Yeah, why not? Well, he'll be a good star for the show if anybody wants to play Jerry Lewis.
Well,
He'll
if
be a
you
good
want
Jerry
him
Lewis.
on the show, let me know. I'll get him for you.
Yeah. And then
Okay,
we
what else
have
we got?
on 22nd and 23rd, we're going to be talking about the Beatles. Who or what broke up the Beatles?
Who
Part
or
1 and
what
Part
broke up the
2.
Beatles? What happened to John, Paul, George, and Ringo?
We'll find out, won't we? Find out.
By the way, when this is true story, just
Mhm.
while we're talking about John, Paul, George, and Ringo, a newly baptized Christian, the pastor asked him, "Okay, who wrote the 4 Gospels?" And she goes, "John." He goes, "Yes, you're right, John." Paul, George, and Ringo.
No, you did not. Really.
Anyway, that's a true story. Rick Saphire can be reached at, let me tell everybody where Rick Saphire can be reached. I have all of Rick's info right here. And let me get this for you. Because it's really important. It is hold on, folks.
I know where.
I just do you? I had everything wrote down.
I know.
I love
Tell
him.
everybody. Go for it. Tell them. I had everything here. My little Chiron disappeared.
If you really want information, to contact me via email or whatever, just go to jerrylewis.com. How could you forget that? If I could give you my business card, I would, but I can't give you my business card because it wouldn't go through the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll have to pick it up in person.
Yeah, I want to
and
show you.
ricksaphire.com. You can
ricksaphire.com is my website.
Yep.
And of course on the realjerrylewisstory.com will take, but it all takes you to the same place.
Sure.
If you go to jerrylewis.com, you're going to read a lot about the book. There are a lot of teasers on there. And of course, if you go to Amazon, you can buy the electronic copy. But may I show you this? I got to show you this. Somebody sent this to me, not in this form, but I scanned it and had it printed onto a card. But it's on a piece of notebook paper. A collector.
Oh, wow.
A collector.
Oh, wow.
His father was a big band nut. He loved the big bands.
Oh, sure.
And he sent this to me because this is Patty Lewis, and there's her
Palmer.
Patty
Sure.
Palmer.
Oh, it's beautiful.
There's her beautiful face.
Yeah,
And
Patty
there's
Palmer.
her signature.
That's
And he
beautiful.
sent this to me without realizing that also on here,
Danny Lewis.
sincerely, Jerry Lewis.
Oh, wow.
This was signed the night that Patty and Jerry met.
Wow.
Jerry was the intermission act.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's when he first, I tell all about it in the book, of course. But Jerry saw her and immediately thought how much she looked like the other young lady who we spoke about, that he was so much.
Wow, remarkable.
That's truly what attracted. But anyway, that autograph page has both, and they might not have even known each other at that point.
Mhm.
Isn't that remarkable? It's like I said earlier in the show, how everything is connected to everything else.
Yeah.
It really is amazing.
It really, really is. On behalf of Rick Saphire, ricksaphire.com, jerrylewis.com. On behalf of Amelia, the Pitbull Chapman, I am the Mad Dog, Angelo DeCipio. Join us each and every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for What's the Buzz, America's Best Popcast. And until we see you again, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, be good to each other, folks. Take care. Bye.